Welcome back. With me now is the MP for Goole and Pocklington and former Brexit Secretary, Sir David Davis. David, lovely to see you this morning. You've had quite a lot of experience negotiating with the French, Michel Barnier and you going head-to-head during the Brexit wars. What do you make of this migrant deal? Will it actually stop the boats?
No, I mean, they call it one in, one out. It's actually 17 in, one out. If it works, you know, it's completely cost-free to the French. You know, from their point of view, they get rid of somebody every time they receive somebody. From our point of view, it won't actually work as a deterrent. I mean, the one thing, I mean, Chris Philp was talking to you earlier, the one thing about the Rwanda deal, which had its issues, but the one thing about it was clearly a deterrent. When people thought it was going to happen, they either didn't get in the boats, or if they're already here, they fled to Ireland. So this will not act as a deterrent. So it is a disaster. I'm afraid the simple truth is that the Prime Minister, I mean, he loves rubbing shoulders with international contemporaries, but he's not very good at doing deals with them. He's altogether too supine, whether it's President Trump or President Macron, and this is a really bad outcome.
People could say you're not in no position to talk. Did you get a good Brexit deal with Theresa May all those years ago?
I mean, there was a reason I resigned, you know,
yes.
Because we didn't stand up to them. I mean, that's one of the problems. I mean, we simply didn't stand up to either the French or the Germans, who were determined to try to make Brexit fail. Now, despite all of that, you know, we had the advantages of the vaccine, we had the advantages of AUKUS, we had, you know, we've got better regulations on AI than they have now, and of course, they're going to have a 30% penalty in trade terms with America, which we are avoiding by not being in there, and that's not unrelated to the reasons for Brexit, because the reason they're going to have a penalty with the Americans is because they rig the system. All this European regulation, burden of regulation, which we hated so much, is there to stop foreign countries being able to export to the European Union, and it's a deliberate rig. So all those reasons, even with what I would grant you is not a very good negotiation, the outcome is proving materially better for us. And as for the area, I mean, you were quite rightly pulling up Chris Philp on the immigration issue. Well, one of the areas, of course, where immigration with France and ourselves is key is the illegal immigration, what the deal's about. The raw truth is the reason, or the large part of the reason for the growth in that immigration is French behavior, is the French police behavior. And you want an example of that? Just look next door. Look at Brussels, look at Belgium next door. I don't often talk up Belgium, but Belgium in the last 4 years has cut illegal migration across the channel by 90%. 90%. And up until last year, the French originating had gone up by about 25%. It's gone up again another half this year. So
how have they done it, David?
How the Belgians have done it? Well, I mean, a whole variety of things. They track down groups of mobile phones, which tell you when people are approaching the beach. They put a few concrete barriers on to stop people getting vehicles on the beach. They do proper follow-up. They've actually arrested about 100 odd smugglers, people smugglers, and imprisoned them. So, you know, they've just done the obvious things.
Yeah, it's basic stuff, this. Yeah, let's talk about that Macron quote about us being sold a Brexit lie then. I mean, when it comes to controlling our borders, we were, weren't we?
Well, I think in terms of the control of borders, there are two elements to this. The other half is us. I mean, you know, we have to force the pace on this. We should have embarrassed the French, frankly, into doing what the Belgians did. We haven't done it. We haven't been robust enough on this, I'm afraid. And that's hardly a new view from me. I've been saying this for years.
No, I know.
So, you know, but the other half of it, which I think you're right on, is the question of legal migration. And every government since Tony Blair's government has used legal migration as a way of pumping up the economy. This is a problem that starts in the Treasury, and we didn't put a stop to it. We should have done, and we didn't put a stop to it. And it requires a degree of determination. It also requires us being quite robust with our own business class and say to them, you know, you've got to start training British workers for these jobs. You've got to start investing in people. I mean, there was a story when I was in cabinet with Theresa May, and she told a story of talking to a strawberry farmer, and he said, "Oh, if I don't have these migrants, I won't be able to run my business." She said, "Well, what will you do if you actually haven't got them?" And he said, "Well, I suppose I'll have to invest in automatic strawberry pickers." Yeah. That's the story. Investment in Britain, investment in making high productive work. Those are the things we have to do. The Treasury, I'm afraid, was the biggest impediment to that. We have to face it down and do the jobs ourselves.
All right. Well, the other thing you're trying to face down is this effort to repeal the Northern Ireland Troubles (brackets Legacy Act. Just tell me, because the GB News audience might not be familiar with what exactly has happened here. You introduced this legislation, I think, back in 2023 to prevent Northern Ireland veterans from being retrospectively prosecuted for killing members of the IRA and other terrorist groups during the Troubles. What's Labour now trying to do?
Well, Labour, and I think it's probably the Attorney General to a very large extent, the driver, under the sort of excuse of human rights, has been saying, well, we're going to have to repeal this because you lost a court case. Actually, the court case was still in process when they came in. They didn't complete the appeal. So, but what they're also doing, frankly, is appeasing Ireland and appeasing a number of people who want to rewrite history. The IRA cannot represent murdering nearly 2,000 people as anything other than a horror. So what they're trying to do is to drag us down to the same level, try to say that our soldiers were running an assassination policy. Well, the truth is, they were making decisions in a split second. The three biggest issues, the conflicts at Coke and Clonau and Loughor, I looked at them all in some detail. In each of them, the IRA were trying to carry out murders, trying to assassinate an individual UDR officer, or trying to blow up a police station, or trying to machine gun a police station. In each case, they were carrying out murders or trying to. And the army intervened, as I say, making split-second decisions, a number of the IRA were killed. Now, that's what happens if you start a civil war. And you can't apply sort of conventional human rights rules to this. People make decisions in a hurry. Now, the government's trying to back off on this. We've got 170,000 signatures so far on our petition for a debate. That debate's going to happen tomorrow. Hilary Benn is going to respond to it, the Northern Ireland Secretary. My hunch is he's not going to have an answer. The simple truth is, what they should have done right back at the beginning, what Blair should have done, is have a truth and reconciliation process like the South Africans had. He didn't. He just basically exonerated, pardoned all of the murderers and left our soldiers hanging. We've got to put that right. I've never seen such a stark example of two-tier justice, of politically driven justice, what it is.
Well, let's just talk about that, David, briefly. Sorry, just talk about that, because you mentioned the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, earlier. Now, I just want to caveat this conversation by pointing out that Lord Hermer is a lawyer. He's not got a right of reply here, so let's be very careful what we're saying. He has previously defended Gerry Adams of Sinn Féin fame. So you're saying that he is pushing this from what perspective exactly?
Well, what I'm saying is that the government's approach is one that says this is a human rights issue. I don't really think, look, there's nobody who's fought harder for human rights in the Commons on either side of the House than me, but I don't think it is. I think it's politically driven. But I think people like Lord Hermer, and I'm not a critic of him for representing people who we might not like in court cases. That happens. Lawyers do that. They have to have lawyers, so they do that. No, what I'm a critic of is using a human rights excuse to destroy the retirements of people who are heroic, patriotic, fought with skill and courage to defend us. And by the way, one of the effects of these operations was the murder rate in Northern Ireland went down dramatically afterwards. Hundreds and hundreds of people were being killed in Armagh and East Tyrone and so on, and Belfast before then. After these operations, frankly, when the killers were dead, the death rate went down. The death rate amongst innocent people went down. Trying to wrap that up as a human rights issue on behalf of the killers, frankly, the murderers who themselves got killed, in my view, is a misuse of human rights.
Very final quick question then. This debate tomorrow, I mean, can you really force the government's hand on this? Do you have the numbers?
No. And it will not be decisive. This is about the general public. If you think, where do our soldiers come from? You know, in 2 world wars, they were won by mostly young men, but young women as well, from the industrial heartland of Britain, from Leeds and Bradford, from Bingley, from Wigan, from Birmingham. You know, these places are now littered with what we used to call red wall seats. Red wall seats with majorities of a few hundred or maybe 1,000 or so. There are 2 million retired veterans in this country. Many of them live in those seats. It's for them to say to their MP, look, if you want me to vote for you next time, you've got to make sure that I, my family, my colleagues, my comrades get proper justice. And this is not proper justice.
All right, we need to leave it there, Sir David, but thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.